The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey, who some of you may know as the support system for Lainey and Lauren Hersey, who have spent most of the past 6 months watching Wicked. Is that am I getting that right?
Well, Jim, I think we're on the 51st episode of the Epic Universal Podcast. I think they're probably watched Wicked 51 times or more, it seems. So, yeah, there's a lot. But it sounds to me like they might get to 52. You just gave me some some information.
Yeah, well, I obviously, again, we have Wicked Part 2 for Good coming out later this year. And what's interesting is obviously Wicked fans have been chomping at the bit. Well, when are we going to get to see the trailer? And it turns out now we know. On June 4th, for one night, Wicked is going back into theaters. But the thing that's interesting about this is if you buy a ticket to this, you're going to be among the first people on the planet to see the trailer for Good. So we were joking as we were pre-gaming tonight's show. It's like, well, at least we know where Lauren and Lainey will be that night.
Right.
So,
and I was curious because I did see it online. I think Lainey actually shared it on her Instagram, like the poster. So the poster came out. Yeah, so I didn't realize they made the announcement that they're going to show the trailer. Mm-hmm. But I've seen this kind of gimmicky things before. Are they trying to chase like a number? Or are they do you think that they're trying to get like more box office? Because this counts towards the initial release, right? I mean, it all goes to some type of number.
It would. I mean, cumulatively. Obviously the film has ended its domestic run, but historically, whatever this one night only thing raises will get tossed in the pile. And just in case you're wondering, folks, at this point, the first Wicked film sits at $755 million. And again, that's the worldwide gross. Now, what's kind of interesting, though, is that domestically, here in North America, Wicked has sold $473 million worth of tickets, whereas overseas, it's only sold $282 million. And I remember talking with a friend who worked at Disney when I want to say Oz the Great and Powerful, their Oz prequel, came out, 2014, 2015. And the folks at Disney were kind of whining about the fact that it did really well stateside, but overseas, Oz, the Great and Powerful really didn't do as well. And it's like, that's the weird thing about the Oz stories. They're an American thing. They're not as popular internationally as you might think. But the hope, at least I think with Universal, is that if they push the Wicked out through all of their available platforms, pay-per-view, streaming, that sort of thing, come the fall, there will be a lot of folks internationally who are like, okay, I actually want to see how this story ends. So I will now buy a ticket. So it'll be interesting in, say, a year's time to circle back and see how Wicked for Good, Part 2, how its box office numbers compared to the first one.
Yeah, and it'd be foolish if they don't figure out how to do if you're getting pumped for the November release, think in October, put it out again. Put out, Wicked, and then you go right in. I don't know if that's a promotional tactic they would do, but if I was running it, I would just say, let's add more to it. Let's get it in that $1 billion club. Let's see if we can add more money too. But we'll see what happens come fall.
Yep. Well, okay. So that's our little tease news story up front, and we're now going to get to the actual news for this week's show. But before we do that, we of course have to acknowledge our sponsor, which is Be Our Guest Vacation. And planning your next adventure, let the experts at Be Our Guest Vacation take care of the details. As a platinum level earmarked travel agency, they provide top-tier concierge service for trips to Universal Orlando, Universal Hollywood, and those Disney parks, cruise lines. You get the idea. Get started today at beourguestvacations.com and be sure to mention that the Epic Universal podcast sent you. So, we are now in T-minus country.
Yeah, what is it? A couple of days by the time our next show comes out. It's going to be available, right?
By the way, we were just talking about your lovely bride, who I want to say she sent me a sweet package full of Epic Universal stuff. But I have to tell you, the hit of the package was Goose,
God,
Goose, the cat from the Captain Marvel movies, which this year I promise we will add to the Catmas tree here at the Hill House.
Jim, do you know the story of that? I bet you don't. That has been sitting in my basement for a year, and we were going to send you, and it's been sitting on my cabinet. And I'm like, well, next time we send something to Jim, I'm going to throw it in there. We bought it when the actual movie came out. We bought it when we were at the Disney parks to send to you because we knew of your cats. But that just shows how bad we are at getting to the post office.
No. The story ended happily. The cat is here, and our cats have eyeballed it suspiciously, and Nancy was looking at the whole. I guess it's one of these things that's supposed to ride on your shoulder.
Is that right?
Yeah. So we were.
Don't get too close. I've seen those things swallow.
No. That is true. So that's why we're going to keep it over here. But all right. Anyway, so we were talking about how Epic Universe opens on May 22nd, and now we've learned the night beforehand a live stream. Is that correct?
Yeah, this was just announced this morning. So literally just 1 week from now on the 21st, you can actually stream. So I'll be streaming. We will not be recording at this time, Jim, next week, because we're going to stream. There's a blue carpet pre-show experience that begins at 6 p.m. and then it goes to the celebration at 7 p.m. So you can, I believe they were just pointing you to one of their digital channels. So this will be streaming on Instagram, Facebook, who knows.
Wow.
But are you going to plop down and watch this, Jim? What do you think? Or are you going to watch after, get the highlights?
No. At the very least, I'm going to sit there and see if I can see Testa. He's going in my place to the press event. So hopefully Len will be walking the blue carpet there.
Wear something ridiculous, Len, so we can see you.
There we go. But toward that end, though, this live stream is among several things that Universal is doing to make sure that the known world knows about the opening of Epic. And one of the other arms of the company is, of course, Peacock. And can you talk about what they're going to do over there?
Yeah, Jim, I think my direct messages blew up when this came out because all my friends and family know that these are the things that I enjoy the most. I love a documentary about theme parks. Like I watched the Imagineering story so many times, and all those old 90s made for television specials for Disney and Universal. I've seen them a million times, but now we have a 3-part docuseries titled The Epic Ride, the story of Universal theme parks, comes out on July 24th on Peacock. Now I know you're going to watch that. You're a Peacock subscriber, Jim.
That we are, and again though, 3-part docuseries. Okay.
Well, it's going to show you basically the start of it all. I mean, I don't know if it'll do justice to what BioReconstruct could come up with, because I think he has the archival footage, and if they haven't talked with him, then they're foolish. But I imagine this is coming from it'll have to handle a little bit of the pandemic and the trials behind it. They basically say it's going to be archival footage and then interview with the creatives and commentary from what they say is A-list talent. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. All right. I will put that on the calendar, July 24th. But speaking of things that I need to put on my summer calendar, so what is the deal now with Universal Studios Hollywood? I mean, we this weekend we wrap up the first edition of FanFest, and now we have a summer long event that actually seems to incorporate some of the stuff from that, right?
Yeah, they didn't stop. And at first I saw this and it reminded me a lot of like the summer movie, mega movie parade that was down in Florida last year. And I saw that parade twice over the time frame. It's really fun, but it's the Universal Mega Movie Summer, and that runs from June 13th to August 10th. And it's celebrating the iconic Universal films. So we have a little Jurassic World, the ride. Now, Mosasaurus Splash is
no. We have to
pronounce it incorrectly.
No, you did great. But what's intriguing here is about the Mosasaurus Splash. This is the giant swimming dinosaur that, in fact, is also featured in the Jurassic World Rebirth trailer. But what's interesting, and again, you're going to get to see this summer because they changed their Jurassic River ride. In fact, this was in 2018 for the 25th anniversary of the original Jurassic Park movie. They announced they're going to change it to a Jurassic World attraction. And they took the opening scene of the ride and changed it into, you're going by the Mosasaur tank. So it's these two giant video walls. And what's kind of cool is you first see the Mosasaur in the tank to the left, and then you see it effectively swim under your vehicle, and it comes up on the other side, and then it goes back under one more time. And just as you're passing by, it then makes a run at the glass. And they do this again. It's this amazing effect, Eric. The Mosasaur hits the glass, it splinters, and now the tank begins to leak on you.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, oh, okay, I'm not safe in here and I'm getting wet. So I'm assuming now with the Mosasaur splash effect, I guess he's going to get a little bit more playful.
Well, yeah. And the next statement says 4 new spitter dinosaurs. So there must be some dinosaurs that are also going to spit on you.
Well, there we go.
They're getting way more wet, I guess.
Well, I do want to point out that just this past weekend, California had a heat wave. They were up in the high 90s. So, maybe if we see that same sort of weather this summer, getting splashed by a mosasaur or spit on by a dinosaur, it might actually be refreshing.
Yeah. And then you also have dinosaur meet and greets. So if we get one big enough that sneezes on you, it's kind of like a fan. So it'll dry you off. It's one of those human fans. So,
okay. There we go.
But you talking about the dinosaur swimming underneath you crops up fear for me, which is the Jaws, most terrifying thing that I've ever watched, and still scared of it to this day. But they're also going to have a lot of Jaws props, and I think they already started to redo some of the shops. So there's for the Jaws fans out there. And what is it? Is it 50th anniversary for Jaws this year?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah, they're celebrating. There's popcorn buckets. There's all types of going on. Wow. Listen, my brother and sister know that I'm kind of terrified of Jaws, so I get messages all the time for anything Jaws related. My sister sent me the popcorn bucket today. I'm like, yep, I've seen it. Thank you.
What a lovely family. Okay.
Right. Well, then Back to the Future stuff is coming back around. So if you missed it, they're going to be hanging out at Mel's Diner. Okay. And if you can't make it to Epic, then there is a a Toothless photo op. Not probably the same as meeting Toothless in the flesh, but we'll take the photo op. Okay. And you can still meet Wicked characters. And there's some, I think you'll get to see the Fast and Furious vehicle that's coming up in a preview. So
very smart. Very smart.
Fun stuff going on in Hollywood. And our goal was to get out there in August. Now this ends August 10th. So I don't remember if it's early, mid, or, so maybe I'll get to catch this. Okay. We'll see. We will see.
Okay.
Did you see this next rumor, Jim?
What is that?
That the removal of all in-park smoking areas, that cropped up on Twitter this week, where everybody is talking about that Universal team members are kind of mentioning that there will be no more smoking in the parks whatsoever. Have you heard any of that circling, or how would that fly? I mean, right now it's a rumor, but there's enough people talking about it, and it's supposedly going to start as of tomorrow, the 15th. So yesterday, if you're listening to it on Friday.
Well, I mean, realistically, Disney did this, back in 2019, right?
Yeah, like Smoker's Alley behind where Tron is now disappeared. I think you have to go to the front of the park, right?
Yeah.
Like almost by the docking stations in Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, probably, especially if you're opening Epic Universe, and that's a park that supposedly was designed from the get-go with no smoking areas, I guess this is the time to do it. But woof, it's so interesting in this time where culturally people are pushing back against health conscious things and something like that. What do you mean I can't smoke in your park? And it's like, well, you can. You just have to hike to the front and step outside.
Yeah, you just get like extra steps in there. I'll be interested to see if that comes into fruition. That's been mentioned out there enough that I wanted to see if you had any talks. But we also had a couple listener emails that came in, and I wanted to run by you. We had a really nice one come from Scott, who actually brought up some great news, Jim. Some great news.
Oh,
we talked a couple weeks ago, and you asked the question if Jacques and Penelope were still in Toothsomes.
Yeah, because there was that rumor, what with, starting up Epic and that sort of thing, that there were some staff cuts cutting, and supposedly the walk around folks at Toothsomes were on the block. So we have good news, yes?
We do have good news. Scott has confirmed that they were both still there, and they were making their rounds around the table. So this was the email came in, I think, today. So we can assume that they are safe, which is great. Good news. There was also some really cool information brought over because we talked about Cabana Bay, and Scott gave us a little trick, basically to that if you ask to stay in the motel, like the looking sections at such as Thunderbird, you're going to be real close to the footbridge. And you were explaining this to me because I was still like, I don't understand it too well. I've stayed there. So what does that mean, Jim? What is this hack?
Okay, well, what Scott is referring to, again, Cabana Bay, there is the tower side, but there's also the motel side that looks like the classic 1960s down by the beach in Florida motel. But toward and I want to say if you come out of the lobby to the back right is where the Thunderbird section of the hotel is located. But behind the hotel, where you park your car, is a gate that leads to the bridge that crosses the street. And let's be honest here, when you're staying at Cabana Bay, you look across the street at Sapphire Falls and it's like, ooh, I want to go there. But because it's a busy street, they discourage people from crossing there.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you take this bridge across the street, relatively short walk over to Sapphire Falls, which, as Scott pointed out, then allows you to, rather than ride on a bus, you get to take, those beautiful little boats that Universal Orlando runs, and you can take one of those over to their equivalent of the TTC. Get out there and climb the stairs and make your way over to either Universal Studios Florida or Islands. But that's a great suggestion. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I haven't got to do the water taxi yet. I think Lauren did.
Water taxi, there we go. That's what they call it.
Well, I haven't got to do it, so I'm all about trying all the transportation methods just to see what it's like.
Okay.
And then there was one last mention of one of the previous episodes where we did for Easter and Hop. And he mentioned that it was actually branded as an illumination film and produced by Mr. Melandrandi, which
Chris
is
Melandri. Yep.
Okay, you got it.
Yep.
But it was animation work was done by Rhythm and Hue Studio in LA, right? Does that ring a bell? Like there was
No. Scott is correct. In fact, the sad part of this story is that while Illuminations is alive and well, Rhythm and Hues went down. It was one of in fact, I want to say. Which was they literally worked in an Academy Award winning film and received all of this praise for working on the project, and I want to say the studio closed the next week.
Oh, I think you and Drew talked about that on an episode before because I remember hearing that and I'm like, wow, awards don't mean much.
Well, I mean, it's just the financials when you work that side of the street are just so tough. But no, thank you, Scott. I always prefer to be correct. Sometimes it's unfortunate as the truth stands in the way of a good story. But no, thank you for pointing that out about Rhythm and Hues, and they were a great outfit. They did great work on a lot of films. I miss them.
Well, Jim, we got one more email here that goes great into our next to the feature today. But we got an email from Jason. Why? Let me ask you this, Jim. Are you familiar with like the Orlando Informer night events? You ever heard of those?
Oh yeah, no, they do a great job. I've never managed to be down there at the right time, but they create these opportunities at the Universal parks where you have sort of the ultimate guest experience. Yeah.
Well, that explains a lot why you haven't got to do the Pteranodon flyers or whatever, because guess what? He said that he found that there was actually at these events, they run a lottery where a user can register for the chance to ride without having someone ride with them underneath the height requirement. So it's not explicitly called out on the website, but through Reddit thread and Facebook post from the Orlando Informer themselves, they have confirmed the existence of this lottery. So as he says, there's hope for you yet, Jim.
Well, I had already planned on borrowing Miles for a day.
Right.
And again, you've stopped feeding him right. We can't have him grow. All right.
No. Right.
Okay. So, but no, this is lovely to know. In fact, you can start feeding your son again. Okay. Go
thank
ahead.
you, Jim.
All right. Cool.
Thanks. Oh, but I thought that lend well to the feature, and I believe you're going to talk more about the Triceratops Encounter, right?
We are, and unlike my Lakeshore Lodge story, we're bringing this one to a close, folks. But before we do that, there's this.
At the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event, get deals so right, it almost feels wrong. Now's the best time to get that Hyundai you've always wanted. Plus, every new Hyundai comes with America's best warranty and 3 years or 36,000 miles of limited complimentary maintenance. Don't think you can get away with all that? Think again. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today. It's a great day for a new Hyundai.
This message is brought to you by Abercrombie Kids, where the activewear is made for every summer activity, so your mini-me can bring their personal best. Summer days are always an adventure, from day camp to rec leagues and pool days. Abercrombie Kids has the shorts, tees, and swim to keep them comfy and keep up with them. Get everything for the entire summer at Abercrombie Kids. Shop in-store, online, or in the app.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
Okay, folks, and we're back. Okay, and over the last 2 episodes of the Epic Universal podcast, we have been talking about Triceratops Encounter, which was an opening day attraction at Universal's Islands Adventure that featured not 1, but 3 state-of-the-art, 24-foot-long, 10-foot-high animatronic dinosaurs that could breathe and blink and pee, if you're into that sort of thing. Now, Universal Orlando was so sure that this Jurassic Park attraction was going to be a smash hit, something that the public would beat a path to this theme park expressly to see and experience. They actually made Triceratops Encounter at Islands one of the main things they promoted as part of Islands launch. That this was, again, the park opened May of '99, and this was featured in the commercials that ran nationally. But by 2003, it was clear that there had been some sort of miscalculation. Triceratops Encounter, which, by the way, was one of the most expensive attractions in the park to maintain, also to staff. I mean, I think we talked on last week's show, Eric, about how there were like 3 different stations in the queue. There was like a feeding station and an observation station, and but each of these had to have a Universal team member in there pretending to, well, I'm putting together the Triceratops chow, or I'm tracking where they are on the island, and that sort of thing. And that was all in the outdoor queue that eventually led to the paddock. And then, of course, inside the paddock, you had to have a Universal team member who had been trained to do the whole routine, a 10-minute long show with this Triceratops, this multi-ton robot. Sell the idea to the members of the general public that this is a living, breathing dinosaur. Anyway, long story short, just wasn't getting sufficient throughput. I want to say Mr. Schul describes this as undesired capacity, or it's only less than 10% of Islands Adventure visitors were going out of the way to experience this interactive attraction. And this is the thing, they weren't entirely sure what went wrong here. Now, in hindsight, it's been suggested by not allowing guests who are just walking through Florida's version of Jurassic Park to at least get a glimpse of these animatronic dinosaurs in action before they got in line. Well, those people had no incentive to get in that queue, which is why come 2003, Universal makes the hard decision to shift Triceratops Encounter from being an attraction that was open year-round to something that would only be open at Islands during the busiest times of year, when this theme park just needed all the capacity it could get. However, Eric, downside of doing something like that, when you take sophisticated pieces of technology, like these 3 animatronic dinosaurs, and you then mothball them for months in a humid environment like one finds in Central Florida, that's just not good for electronics, which is why when Universal would go to fire up Triceratops Encounter for the 4th of July weekend or Christmas week, they'd often find that one or more of these 24-foot long, 10-foot high mechanical creatures was malfunctioning or wouldn't work at all. Which then it's like, well, crud, now we're down to 2 dinosaurs, or God help us, only 1, which then lowers your potential capacity for this Jurassic Park attraction. And you'll love this. Weird little bend on the story comes October of 2002. This is when Universal Orlando Resort tried, for 1 year, mind you, to move Halloween Horror Nights over from Universal Studios Florida to Islands Adventure. And this hard ticket, which was known as Halloween Horror Nights, Islands of Fear.
I knew it had a clever name. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Okay. It ran from October 4th through November 2nd of 2002, just 21 nights, as opposed to now, like 70? It featured 5 haunted houses, 6 scare zones, and 3 shows. And Jurassic Park section of Islands was actually home to 3 of these. 2 haunted houses, one, by the way, themed around the Fear Factor TV show, which was popular at the time, as well as an extinction-themed scare zone. And actually, this is kind of a cool idea. All they did is killed most of the area lighting for Jurassic Park, and the notion is, here you are. You're in the movie, all right?
There you go.
The power's down, the gates are open, and I'm pretty sure raptors are loose. There's some carnivorous dinosaurs out wandering around and are going to eat your face. Now, for Triceratops Encounter, what was interesting is this attraction was temporarily turned into a haunted house. With the conceit being that deep within the jungle, some top secret genetic experiments have gone horribly wrong, creating hideous mutants that are half human and half dinosaur. Now, what's funny about this, Eric, is think about it. When Jurassic World comes out in June of 2015, this Colin Trevorrow film actually kind of features the same storyline, only not with the mixing of dino and human DNA, but rather combining, a dinosaur DNA to create even scarier dinosaurs. And speaking of scary dinosaurs, as you made your way through this haunted house, one of the more shocking things you came across was this full-size Triceratops whose head had supposedly been cut off. It's posed on the ground, tongue sticking out, and it's like, ooh. But in reality, what had gone on here is that this is just one of the animatronics from Triceratops Encounter undergoing annual maintenance. They had pulled the head off and just sort of put it on the floor there and put some artificial goo, on the neck, and everyone will.
That sounds like if they're really running short on money one day and they just need to do a Halloween Horror Nights, nights. Literally, just go and peel the skin off of all animatronics in the entire park. There you go.
No,
That's scarier than anything.
And again, send that check to Eric Hersey if he used his idea. All right. So anyway, look, let's be honest here. The Islands was able to do this, retheme Triceratops Encounter, the queue, as a haunted house because, well, by then the handwriting's on the wall. This Jurassic Park attraction was seriously underperforming with guests, and indeed, by 2003, as we mentioned earlier, this island attraction then shifts to strictly seasonal operations. Now, mind you, in the mid-2000s, they revisit the attraction. They try a new enticement, which is they put a team member standing up by the entrance of Triceratops Encounter with a cute little baby Triceratops puppet that they're holding in his or her arms. And the lure here is like, ooh, you want to see this creature's mama? Go down that trail. And by the way, very smart reuse of an asset that had been originally created for the Jurassic Park Discovery Center, which was right next door. And by the way, to further link them up, this is during this window of time, Triceratops Encounter was rebranded as Triceratops Discovery Trail. With the idea that, the name would make guests think, well, there's a trail here and let's go explore it. See what there is to see. Didn't work. Visitors to Island Adventure would coo at the baby Triceratops puppet, but not go down the Triceratops Discovery Trail, which is why this attraction ultimately finally closes for good in 2012. That said, what the folks from Island Adventure did remember, at least in regards to that singular version of Halloween Horror Night that was held in this theme park in 2002, was how frightened people were as they walked around a darkened Jurassic Park at night when they were told they were being stalked by carnivorous dinosaurs, which again, to fans of Jurassic Park, only means one of two things. That's either raptors or a T-Rex. Right. Which brings us to how Universal went from having a state-of-the-art animatronic figure to basically a guy in a suit. But even so, guest satisfaction levels shot through the roof, and we'll get to that story in a moment. But first, this.
This episode is brought to you by Heyday. Feeling stressed? Take a moment for yourself with Heyday. Stroll through rows of golden wheat, tend to cute barnyard animals, and discover the joys of a digital farm retreat. You don't have to hop in a car or catch a plane. Escape to the farm at the tap of a finger. With Heyday, you're not just tending to a farm, you're tending to yourself. Heyday. Search Heyday, that's Hay space DAY, in your favorite app store. Heyday is a free-to-play mobile game and offers optional in-app purchases and random rewards.
This episode is brought to you by PetSmart. Stop by for Yappy Hour with your pet at PetSmart. Save $5 on walk-in grooming services like nail trims, ear cleaning, brushing, and more. No appointment needed every weekday from 2 to 6 p.m. And while you're there, Yappy Hour includes exclusive in-store deals like 25% off pet toys. Visit services.petsmart.com/grooming to learn more.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
And we're back. Okay, so back to our story. Universal Orlando is confused as to why Triceratops Encounter hadn't really connected with visitors to Islands Adventure. And let's be honest here, a secondary factor to this was that the Jurassic Park film series, which started by breaking box office records back in 1993, had kind of run out of steam by the summer of 2001. I mean, Jurassic Park 3 made $368 million worldwide when it was released to theaters that summer, which was roughly a third of what the first Jurassic Park movie had made when it was released to theaters some 8 years earlier. And now, mind you, Steven Spielberg put a Jurassic Park 4 in development that very same summer of 2001, with the idea that this continuation of the series would be out in theaters for the summer of 2005, but none of the scripts that came across Steven's desk pleased him. So this is why by the time 2005 rolls around, he says, I'm not going to make Jurassic Park 4. I'm going to make Indiana Jones 4, which, by the way, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull makes it into theaters May of 2008. But as the 2010s roll around, the folks at Universal would periodically stop by the Amblin compound and Steven, what's going on with Jurassic Park 4? And the thing is that Steven didn't want to repeat himself. It's like, all right, what's different? What can we do different this time? What would make another Jurassic Park film unique? And then it's like, what if the park actually worked? And which, of course, led to Jurassic World, which, by the way, was supposed to come out in theaters originally summer of 2014, but due to developmental issues, got pushed off to June of 2015. Mind you, the folks at Universal Creative, this whole time, whenever there was a new draft of the script for this next Jurassic Park film, they'd get slipped a copy. So that's how they knew about Blue, the trained raptor that Chris Pratt's Owen Brady character had hand raised. And so this was the moment they were like, well, wait a minute. What if we did, instead of Triceratops Encounter, what if we gave guests the opportunity to interact with a barely under control raptor? And so now, mind you, the folks at Universal Creative had clearly learned lessons from the past. Like, for example, remember, we talked about how Triceratops Encounter, was hidden out of sight. You had to walk down a path and yada, yada, yada. Where Raptor Encounter was not going to be out of sight around a corner inside a paddock that guests could not see as they were walking through Jurassic Park. I mean, this thing from day one had clear line of sight. Guests would come up the hill from Skull Island and they'd deliberately walk by a place where they could look in and see people first standing with their back to the raptor as they're getting their picture, and then screaming and running forward as the guy in the suit went rah. And the thing of it is, people were like, where do I get a light for that? That looks amazing.
Right.
And that was the other thing. Universal was so sure of this concept. Raptor Encounter opened May of 2015, a full 3 weeks before Jurassic World opened in theaters. But they were very, very confident because by then, the trailer for Jurassic World, which again famously features the footage of Owen Brady, the character of Owen Brady, Chris Pratt's character, riding on a motorcycle in the middle of a running herd of raptors, and it's like, all right, I know raptors in this movie. Let's do that. Also, let's be honest. Opening this in 2015, just as social media was exploding, the thing is people would take a video of their encounter with Blue with the phone, and then they'd push it out to friends and family, and which is how this experience quickly became a must-do at Islands of Adventure. But again, Eric, here's the thing. This is a guy in a suit. He's a puppet, all right? As low tech as it comes, and people just absolutely loved it.
Jim, he reminds me almost like of, you see him all the time in Halloween where the kids blow themselves up in those inflatable like dinosaur costumes and they walk around. It is very much a high tech version but it's hysterical. But yeah, I remember in 2015 seeing this on social, and at that point in time I was barely into Disney, let alone Universal. So this did hit the wave. So it's very funny how right place, right time. Yep. It really worked.
Now, earlier on in today's show, we talked about how Jurassic Park, the ride out in Hollywood, got changed out and got changed into the Jurassic World ride. Now, what's interesting, again, it goes down in 2018, doesn't reopen for, I want to say, 2 years. But obviously, people want some sort of dinosaur experience while this is going on. So, believe it or not, this is when Universal Hollywood introduces 2 guys in a Triceratops costume. All right.
I've seen this too. Yeah. I've seen this online.
And again, as low tech as it comes, but people loved it. But here's the absolute kicker, the thing I absolutely love about this story. This came about because Universal Studios Japan, which, by the way, had opened in May of 2001 with its own Jurassic Park section, had started doing its own walk-around dinosaur thing with, again, 2 guys in a Triceratops suit and walk-around raptors, and which are clearly guys in suits. But here's the thing. This is Japan, home of Godzilla. And we love guys in suits over here. So, I mean, in fact, if you Google Universal Studios Japan Dino Rampage, there is this amazing thing where you can literally see hundreds of people standing around the periphery, but it's 3 guys in raptor suits and 2 guys in a Triceratops suit. And what freaks them out is they push in from off stage the head or head and upper body of the Spinosaur from Jurassic Park 3, and now all these these dinosaurs are panicking, and you have the traders trying to calm them down, and it's like, and it's just wonderful. If it's theme park magic in the lowest tech possible way. And but again, just to be clear, the stateside parks saw how successful that was. The guy in the suit stuff, the low tech stuff, and brought versions of that to Hollywood and Orlando, which, by the way, bringing things full circle to what we were talking about earlier tonight about Universal Fan Fest, final weekend coming up this weekend. And remember, we have an Orlando version of Universal Fan Fest coming up sometime, if not this year, early next. But this was all because Universal Japan showed you don't have to have a state-of-the-art animatronic, just something that scares and thrills the guest. And that can be a guy in a suit. One final note here, and in fact, it's kind of ironic, because this was the thing that effectively erased Triceratops Encounter from Islands of Adventure. But Universal Orlando learned an interesting lesson about, if you put things at where guests can see them, they get excited. So think about this. When they went and built Velocicoaster, this wasn't a coaster hidden in the back of the park. This wasn't a coaster inside of a building. This was a coaster that was built right down at the edge of Islands of Adventure Lagoon. In fact, it's often the very first thing guests see after, they come through port of entry and they make it to the water there and they look across the way and they don't even see the Universal Discovery Center, which, remember, when this park was first designed, was supposed to be that park's castle. What they see is the Velocicoaster, with all those inversions. It's like, oh man, let's go there now. Yeah. And supposedly the Velocicoaster was positioned the way it was because they had seen how people reacted to putting the Raptor Encounter out in the open like that. It's like, all right, let's not be subtle. Let's put that front and center.
Right. And then it kind of circles back, Jim, that when we originally started talking about this, what made Toothless so impressive compared to a Triceratops that was never seen. And as you walk right through Burke, Toothless is there. You see him talking with people and so forth. So it is a matter of like, don't make us walk down a giant trail. Let us see what's going on. And we can get excited. And yes, we will wait. But it's a fascinating story about how this all came about. And whatever happened to those giant Triceratops? They still rotting away. They took them off to a graveyard.
Well, the interesting thing, right up until they began working on Velocicoaster, in fact, you can go to YouTube right now. There's a bunch of urban explorers who, when team members weren't paying attention, would slip down that trail and go into the paddocks where, you could actually see, depending on which paddock you went to, they were trying to keep one of them up and running. So they were stripping the parts out of the other two. So again, you got the Halloween Horror Night experience of, oh no, somebody has maimed the Triceratops. And it's like, no, we're just trying to keep the other one running. So we borrowed the eyes, we borrowed the lungs, and here we are today. But yeah, those eventually all got pulled down for Velocicoaster. And
yeah. Well, listen, Jim, did you know there is a slight nod to in the Velocicoaster? Now you're moving real fast and you can't see it, but you can find it online. There is some Dino Bites that was in the queue that is actually still down while you're riding. If you're going down, you actually see a bag of Dino Bites that was used in the Triceratops Encounter. It's still in the queue, or it's in the on the ride Velocicoaster. You can see it. So there's a nice little Easter egg for all those out there. But you gotta slow down the footage online to be able to find it. It's tough to see, but I've seen it.
Well, given that I've made my one and only trip on Velocicoaster, I'm never seeing that.
All right. Well, I'll do you a favor, Jim. I'll find it online and I'll post it on Twitter, and you can see it there.
Thank you. So, and speaking of finding things, as we bring this week's show to a close, and if folks like Scott want to share their impressions of or share info about the Universal Orlando Resort, how can they get a hold of you, Eric?
Jim, you can find me at Eric Hersey pretty much on almost of the social platforms. How about yourself?
Let's see. You can find me on X and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And well, I guess that's going to do it for this week's show, folks. So thanks for listening, and stick around to find out what's coming up this month at the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. We also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Len Testa. For animation and movie news, please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcast, Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly. If you enjoy theme park history, we also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about our podcast and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.